You're welcome to come up here and do Oshoko if you'd like before the service starts. We'll be starting in a few minutes, so please do Oshoko if you can, or if you like.
Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandavits, 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 Namandavits.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming for today's service. I'm the chairperson today. I'm Ken Muraoka. Good to see everybody. Looking at the weather, we have a beautiful day, and once again in sunny San Diego. Quite different than much of the rest of the United States, where it's freezing cold, and just makes you appreciate San Diego so much more. Coming in today, I was looking up at all the pictures above as you walk in from the foyer. Noticed I was looking at all the pictures there, and I was surprised at how many of the reverends I grew up with. So I grew up with Reverend Terada, Reverend Tada, Reverend Miyagi, Reverend Aoyama, Reverend Mukujima, Reverend Hata, Reverend Yanagihara, and Reverend Akahoshi. And I was like, oh, gee, I'm old. But then I remembered Reverend Hata and Reverend Yanagihara are retired, so they don't count, so that makes me a little bit younger. But we're so fortunate that we have Reverend Davenport here today. He'll be our Dharma leader today for today's service. So once again, thank you everybody for joining us today. We'll start off today's service with silent meditation.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Listen. Listen to the voice of the Dharma. Listen to the birds singing in the morning, the wind sighing in the boughs overhead, and the roar of the waves on the ocean. Listen to the rain on the roof and the snow falling in the fields. The Dharma speaks to us through the sounds of nature, forcefully and eloquently and beautifully. It speaks of the unending change around us, the immutable truth of interdependence, and the peace in nature. Do we have the ears to hear and listen? Listen to the sound of the Nembutsu and the Hondo. Listen to the noble silence of the Buddha. Join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabutsu. Namandabutsu.
We will next have Sutra chanting Sanbutsuge on page 44.
Mani Shuko Enyo Kai Shin Non Pe Yunyaku Jumoku Nyorai Yogen Chose Murin Shogakudaion Koru Jipo Kaimon Shojin Sanmai Chie Itokumuro Shishokeu Jintai Zennen Shobuten Hokai Gujin Jin no Kugo Gaitai Mumyo Yokunu Seson Yomu Nino Shishi Jintokumuro Kukun Kodai Chie Jinmyo Komyo Iso Shindo Daisen Ganga Sabun Zai Shoho Kado Shoji Mifu Ge Dan Fu Se Joi Kai Nin Shojin Nyoze San Mai Chie Ijo Go Se Toku Bun Fugyo Shigan Isai Kuku Isadayan Keshi Ubun Hakusen no Kuman Muro Daisho Shunyo Goja Kuyo Isai Shito Shobun Funyo Gudo Kansho Fugyaku Hinyo Goja Shobun Sekai Bufu Kage Mishu Sendo Komyo Shisho Henshi Shoko Kunyo Ze Shojin Ijin Nanro Roga Sabun Kokudo Dai Ichigo Shukimyo Dojo Chozen Kokunyo Nyon Nimu Toso Gato Aimin Dodan Isai Jippo Raisho Shinnen Shoujo Ito Gakoku Keraku Anon Kobun Shinmyo Zega Shinsho Hongan no Hi Riki Sho Yoku Jippo Seson Chie Muge Joro Shison Chiga Shingyo Kero Shinshi Shoku Dokuchu Gagyo Shojin Ninju Fuke Namanda Bu Namanda Bu Namanda Bu Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabits. Namandabits. Namandabits.
We will now have a Dharma message given by Reverend Davenport.
Join me in Kansho as they share the words of Sharon. It is difficult to meet true teachers, and difficult for them to instruct. It is difficult to hear the teaching well, and more difficult still to accept it. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandabits. Good morning, everyone. It's so great to see all of you today, and those out in TV land. It's so nice seeing everyone here. We have kids, parents, grandparents, maybe aunts and uncles, maybe just friends. And just being here today, you've already done something extremely meaningful. You've chosen to pause your busy lives, to gather together, and to be present here today. That choice alone tells me something very important, that you are willing to listen. And listening, real listening, is going to be the focus of my talk today. So in Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, listening is not just one practice among many things we do. It is our most fundamental practice. You know, we often hear the phrase, listen to the Dharma, listen to your teachers, listen to your parents. We're told to listen to a lot of things and a lot of people in our life, even here in the Hondo. We often repeat these words, but what do we mean when we say them? What is our intention? What is our goal? And what are we listening for and listening to? So before we go any further, I wanted to offer a question, because I love to start every talk with a question. It gives you something to think about. And hopefully by the end of my talk, if you're listening, you'll know the answer. So my question is, how do you listen to the Dharma? I have this really cute photo. You guys probably can't read it in the back, so I'll read it. There's these two foxes, and they're talking to each other, and they're saying, according to rap music, if we want to be cool, we should get an Impala. And then at the bottom, they're riding an Impala. And if you're old enough to know what the car an Impala is, that joke makes way more sense. So if we think about it, I don't think they're really listening to the words that they're saying. They hear it, they're doing something, but I don't think they're really listening deep down to what it means. If you're too young for that joke, I do apologize. So how do you listen to the Dharma? Okay. Well, in order to listen, we first have to understand the difference between hearing and listening. And so here's a quick question. Raise your hands. How many of you guys can hear me right now? Okay, that's good. Everyone's raising their hands. Second, raise your hands. How many of you guys are listening to me right now? Okay, the same hands went up, which is good. So if we're thinking about it, maybe our younger kids might have an answer. What does it mean to hear something? Anyone know? Anyone want to? Yeah. That's great. That's great. That's almost exactly what Google told me when I looked it up. So I think that's a great answer. So if we go to the dictionary in Google, It says that hearing happens automatically. It's a physical process where sound waves enter our ears, our brain receives these signals, and just like that, we hear something. We don't have to try. We don't have to do anything special. If a book drops, if this microphone goes out, if anything happens, we'll hear it. It's just a natural stimulus. Listening, on the other hand, is very different. Listening is a choice. It's voluntary. It takes effort and attention. And when we listen, we are not just receiving the sound, but we are trying to understand what it really means, to understand the message behind the sounds that we are hearing. And the only way we can do that is if we open ourselves up to what is being communicated, not only in words, but in tone, emotion, and intention. Much like these foxes, you can hear something, you can know what the words mean, but listening requires us to understand what is being said. So here's the key difference. We can't always choose what we hear, what we don't want to hear, but we can choose what we will listen to and how well we listen to it. And this may sound easy, but anyone who's tried listening carefully for a long amount of time can find it very difficult. Much like meditating. Your brain drifts off to lunch. You think about an appointment you might have later in the week or what it was like in 5th grade. So we get distracted very easily. We start thinking about what we want to say next. Sometimes when we listen to people, we only listen to parts we agree with or parts that we quietly ignore and push to the side. Sometimes we listen just long enough to say, I already know this, I don't need to listen to this anymore. But true listening asks us to do something more. It asks us for our full presence. Even when we're speaking, we have to listen. We have to understand what the other person is saying, how to respond genuinely. If we don't, and we're not careful, we may miss details. We might miss emotions. And when we miss those things, great misunderstandings can happen. So I want to share a story for the Dharma School today, all about listening. And it's called The Hare and the Falling Sky. This is a really old Jakarta tale. It's been reimagined several times, so it might sound a little familiar. So long ago, in an island, there was a rabbit, a hare, and was sleeping underneath a coconut tree. And one day, like many of us, it was thinking of too many things. And one thing came to mind. What happens when the world ends? And as soon as this thought popped in the hare's head, a coconut in the distance fell from a tree, hit the ground, and went thud. And the rabbit freaked out, jumps up, and starts taking off. Because the rabbit had thought, the world is ending. It's actually ending. It's happening right now as I'm saying this. And frightened and running for no reason, other animals start to see the rabbit. Other rabbits ask, what's going on? He says, don't ask, just start running. The world's ending, we have to go, now. And soon there was 2 rabbits, 3 rabbits, and eventually all the animals on this island were running in the same direction. Not knowing why, but just knowing that they had to. And so fear spread quickly. I stole this from Lion King. Fear was spreading quickly. The deer began to run, the boars, the buffalo, the rhinoceros, the tigers, and even the elephants. It was an entire stampede of animals, all running because they thought the world was going to end. But, luckily for them, a lion, wise and focused on what was happening, let out a loud roar, and everyone froze. They stopped in their tracks. And the lion asked, why are you running? And all the animals replied, the earth is collapsing. It's all going to end. And the lion asks, who saw this? Who knew what's happening? Each animal started pointing at the other animal, and eventually, that one rabbit at the beginning, our hare, rose his little paw and said, I saw it. And the lion listened carefully, was skeptical about this idea, because to him, nothing was happening. So then he took the hare back to the palm tree, and there everyone saw the fallen fruit and understood the truth. The earth was not collapsing, the world was not ending. It was just a coconut that had fallen on the ground. Because one sound was misunderstood, and because no one else paused to listen carefully, the entire forest had been placed in danger. In fact, if the lion had not intervened, all of these animals would have ran right into the ocean. So let me ask you, especially for our younger kids today, do you think that rabbit was really listening? Or do you think he was just hearing? Probably just hearing. I see a lot of heads nodding. Yeah, our hare was just hearing what was happening around him. He heard a sound. He didn't listen carefully. He didn't think about it. He didn't try and understand. His fear, his ideas, swept up in the moment, took over, and painted a very different picture of what was actually happening. So this might be a fun little story for kids, but I think it's practical for our everyday life as well. As adults, teenagers, when we think about school, when we think about home, when we think about our friends, our family, and everyone we interact with, think to yourself, have you ever misunderstood something because you didn't listen all the way? Have you ever gotten in trouble because you only heard part of what was said? Or did you only hear the words and not listen to the emotions that were being relayed behind them? So this is an easy activity in listening, but in Jodo Shinshu, we have a lot that can teach us about listening. And the most important thing that we are taught to listen to is the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha. We hear it every day when we come to temple. But the Buddha wasn't always the Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha was once an ordinary person, just like us. What made him different was not perfection, but attention. He listened deeply to his own life. He paid close attention to the suffering, confusion, and attachment in the world. And he didn't run away from it like the rabbit in our story. Instead, he sat with them. He listened. And through that listening, he awakened to the wisdom and taught what we call the Four Noble Truths. And does anyone know any of the Four Noble Truths? They don't have to be in order. Anyone? Yeah? Yeah, good. Perfect. Halfway there. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So gold star, 100 points. You didn't have to use a lifeline, which is great. So for us in Jodo Shinshu, listening to the Dharma isn't about memorizing facts or details or sutras. It's not about being good Buddhists. It's about opening our ears, our minds, and our hearts. It's about being willing to listen, even when what we hear is uncomfortable, unfamiliar, and challenging. For Shinran understood how difficult this was. He shared a quote with us. It is difficult to meet true teachers, and difficult for them to instruct. It is difficult to hear the teaching well, and more difficult still to accept it. This is the quote I opened up the talk today with. For Shinran, he knew something very important about each and every one of us, and that is we're all foolish beings. Even he himself says he was a foolish being. We're busy, we're distracted, we listen to things on our terms. We listen only when it suits us. And with all the technology, there's a lot of distractions out there that pull our attention. But Shinran knew that in our hearts, the reason why these teachings don't reach us is because we're closed off to them. We're not willing to listen. We may hear the words, we may hear the chants, but we don't take the time to truly listen. And that is why he emphasized listening to the story of Amida Buddha, which symbolizes infinite compassion that never gives up on us, no matter who we are or how foolish we are. So in hearing these teachings, we express our gratitude for the compassion that always embraces us by saying Namo Amida Butsu. And at this moment, we truly start to listen. It starts not with understanding everything, it just starts with listening to everything around us. Please join me in Gassho, where I share the words of Shinran Shonin. It is difficult to meet true teachers, and difficult for them to instruct. It is difficult to hear the teaching well, and more difficult still to accept it. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu.
Thank you, Sensei, for the reminder that we not only that we need to listen more. I'm often reminded by that by someone who's not here today. But okay, we will continue our service with our Gatha, Lumbini's Garden, on page 119. Please rise. Sorry, if you can. Softly blew the breezes on that glorious morn in Lumbini's garden, where Siddhartha was born. Gently fell the raindrops, sweet and fragrant, on the newborn infant, enlightened to be. From the earth sprang flowers, birds in springtime sang. All throughout the universe, strains of music rang. Please remain standing as we recite the three treasures on page 91. Hard is it to be born into human life, now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One, now we hear it. If we do not deliver ourselves in the present life, no hope is there that we shall be freed from suffering and sorrow in the ocean of birth and death. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of your way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves our supreme will. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depth of the doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become units in true accord in your life of harmony in a spirit of universal brotherhood, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through ages of myriads of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teachings. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Please remain standing. Since I'm the chairperson today, I'm choosing one more recitation. I really enjoy this. This one had a lot of effect on me growing up as a Dharma school student. It was the Golden Chain. I really, this is one that I've always, when I was a little kid, I would always think about it, just the words, and it was to me it was a very, very important recitation in my life. So the golden chain on page 90. Okay. I'm a link in Amida's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I will keep my link bright and strong. I will be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will think pure and beautiful thoughts, say and beautiful words, and do pure and beautiful deeds. May every link in Amida's golden chain of love be bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Okay, please be seated. Okay, are there any announcements? We're at that point in our service.
I'd like to award Davenport Sensei with a climate T-shirt. This is a special two-language edition. The English on the front, and Yukari will recognize the Japanese on the back. Now, I understand, Mr. Rubio, that you're working on adding another language to our Sangha. So this T-shirt comes with a free retrofit. If there are half a dozen Spanish as a first language members of our Sangha, we'll add that too.
Tough one to follow. Hi, everybody. My name is Bob, and I just want to report on a seminar yesterday that was sponsored for the Southern District YB Young Buddhist League. Vista and San Diego YBA sponsored it. There were YBAs from pretty much all over Southern California, as well as Phoenix in attendance, about 60 of our YBA members. And it was wonderful, and I want to thank Sharon Sasaki, Reverend Sharon Sasaki, for giving the Dharma message and also the follow-up closing. And Reverend Laverne was there, as well as several other ministers to support. So great job, Vista and San Diego, for sponsoring that. Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to share that some of the Dharma School students have some other performances going on, and I know Penelope and Benji have a dance performance with the Jason Mraz Foundation coming up Valentine's Day weekend. If anybody's interested, thank you, Junko. I know she and Tim are going. And then also, I'm so excited to learn that Kira is performing in a junior theater production. Sorry, Kira, I'm embarrassing you, but I think it's so cool. And also, Mr. Greg is a JT alumni, so if anybody would like to know about Kira's, it's like their first Asian production where the mountain meets the moon, and it's at the end of February and the beginning of March at the Casa del Prado Theater in Balboa Park. So I'm so excited about these Dharma School students who are also promoting other things, so thank you.
All right, the Dharma School kids can come up here and do Oshoko, then be excused to class. Okay, we'll continue today's morning's service with the Vandana T. Sarana on page 96. You can remain seated. Please recite, even though it says leader, recite everything that's on the Vandana T. Sarana. Page number 96.
Please join me from the leader line at the top. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sambutsuje. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Namo Kie Butsu. Namo Kie Ho. Namo Kie So. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandavas.
Thank you. We will now have the adult portion of our service, or the adult Dharma message by Reverend Sterling Davenport.
Please join me in Gassho as I share the words of Shinran Shonin. Solely saying the Tathagata's name constantly, one should respond with gratitude to the universal vow of great compassion. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandavas. Thank you all for staying. Part 2. So this talk was actually inspired by a movie me and my wife recently watched, which I'll be sharing in a bit. But during this part, I want to talk a little bit more directly on what we can do to listen, what Jodo Shinshu teaches us, and what tools it gives us. Because like I said, in Jodo Shinshu, listening is not just a practice. It's not just something we do. It's a way of life. In other words, it is the practice of Jodo Shinshu. In Japanese, there are two terms that are usually assigned with this: chomon and monpo, which mean listening deeply to the Dharma. Not just hearing the words with our ears, but allowing something to enter us, to change us, to transform us. That is what true listening means. And Shinran understood this. And he also understood that the Dharma isn't difficult because it's complicated or because we can't hear it. It's difficult because we aren't allowing ourselves to embrace it and allow it to embrace us. So why is listening so hard? Well, because listening challenges the stories we tell ourselves, the narratives that we create in our life. You know, we live in a culture, especially nowadays with all the technology, where we are rewarded for talking, asserting, defending, sharing our opinion, and persuading others. We're not rewarded to sit and listen, to hear other people, to challenge our thoughts by allowing their thoughts to reach us. And most of us would rather speak than listen. You know, I do a lot of speaking, but I also do a lot of listening. My wife might say the other hand, but she also is not here right now. But a lot of times when we're listening, we're not giving the other person the benefit of their presence or ours. We're rehearsing what we're going to say before they're even finished saying it. We're thinking of, oh, they said this at the beginning. That's going to lead me to say X, Y, and Z. Or I really want to say this because they said this other thing. So instead of listening and giving them the value of our presence, we're just giving them a slice of our life, and a very small slice of that. And I think it's always strange, I always come back to this quote, you know, we are given 2 ears and 1 mouth. But for most of us, we do more talking than we do listening. So we're using our own senses incorrectly, because listening is twice as important. That's why we have 2 different ears, but we only have 1 mouth. In fact, the most listening people do is when they're eating. So, oftentimes we might believe that we are listening, but more oftentimes than not, we're just hearing. We hear words, but we miss the true meaning behind what's being said. We hear requests, but we overlook the need behind them. So what inspired me today to share this? I want to share this first with you. If you're a big Peanuts fan, it says, so what do you think? What difference does it make? You never listen anyway. And she sits there and she goes, I was just making conversation. And he goes, when you make conversation, you have to listen too. And she says, you do? So as you can see, this is how most conversations go. A lot of people want to talk, but they don't want to listen, even in a conversation. So what inspired this talk today was a movie I watched recently with my wife. It's called Rental Family. If you haven't seen it, I can only recommend it so much. It is an amazing movie. It's got Brendan Fraser in it. You might remember him from movies like The Mummy, The Mummy 2, The Mummy 3, and Bedazzled, and a lot of other movies from the 90s and 2000s. But this is probably one of my favorite movies with him now. I chalk this up as probably I'm going to watch this over and over and over again because it's just so good. So what's this movie about? Well, these are all most of the main characters in the movie. And Brendan Fraser is an actor, and so he's used to acting a certain way. And he gets this weird job offer where he's going to start acting as a companion to people. People call this company and they say, I need a dad, so can you get me someone who's going to act like my dad? Or I need a fake journalist to interview my grandfather, and can you give me someone who's going to act like a fake journalist? So this company has to hear these requests, and they charge an hourly rate, of course, because they're trying to make money. But they're hearing these requests, and they're facilitating these people. And these actors go and they pretend to be these people, pretend to be these significant others. But they're not really listening to what these people want. They just hear what the people are saying. They're not listening deep down on why these people are asking for this thing, why they want this person in their life. What is the purpose behind it? And so at first, he simply just hears what people ask for, and he plays the role. He does really well for the first half of the movie, and not to spoil the rest, but it doesn't go too well later on. But over time, he genuinely starts to listen to these people. He starts to build relationships. He actually becomes the person that he's acting. And what he starts to realize is that what people want isn't the role. It's not the perfect performance of this person that they're paying for. It's about being seen. It's about being heard. It's about forming a genuine relationship. And this realization transformed him by the end of the film. It does end on a very positive note, but this is something that's true for us too. You know, a lot of times in our life, we rush through our roles. You know, we wake up in the morning, we put our hat on, and I'm a parent. And I get my kids out to school, and then they're gone, and then I put our hat on, I'm an employee. And then I go to work, and I do whatever I need to do at work, and then I come home, and I put my spouse hat on, and I see my significant other. And then the kids come home, and I put my parent hat back on. Some of us might wear 10 or 5 hats at the same time. But a lot of us are just rushing from one role to the other. We're putting on that performance to facilitate what we are being rented for. But without truly listening to the people in front of us, we might catch a request, but miss the pain that's being asked behind it. We hear the words, but we'll often overlook the loneliness from where it's coming from. And without listening, if we just hear, even our best intentions, the kind gestures we do, might have negative effects down the road. So even so, listening remains just as difficult. So we have to do something different. We have to deeply listen. We have to make ourselves present. So, it also is hard when we have to listen to things that are uncomfortable. And I'm not talking about the news. But when things don't go right in our life, you know, when we're busy, when we're anxious, when we're defensive, or when we're convinced we already know the answer before someone's done talking, we're missing an opportunity to share a genuine experience with those around us. And our human life, our language, no matter what language we speak, I appreciate the shirt, it doesn't define how we have to view the world. You know, the world says things are good, things are bad, things are great, things are not great. That's how the world defines our experience. But it doesn't have to define the way we experience it. We can change the way we think about our surroundings. And the Dharma is our best example. It points beyond this duality. And only through deeply listening can we approach the truth that is behind it. But we have to listen again and again and again. In Jodo Shinshu, liberation does not come from self-powered efforts. It's not all about me or I. Shinran looked honestly at all human beings and said, "We are foolish." It's not an insult to hurt your feelings. It's a compassionate truth. He's trying to teach us something in this moment. Because of this, Shinran emphasized listening to the Dharma through the story of Amida Buddha. He felt that the teachings become most accessible through listening to the compassionate acts and the moral achievement of Amida Buddha and the story. He emphasized that by listening to this story and understanding the deep meaning behind it and the compassion that it is encapsulating through the Amida Buddha's primal vow to remove the suffering of all beings, regardless of who they are, Shinran believed everyone could realize the true wisdom of the Dharma without fancy practices, without fancy rituals or long meditations, but by simply listening to this story. So therefore, in Jodo Shinshu, our main practice isn't these chanting, meditation, or rituals, it's listening. That is our daily practice. And we can do it anywhere, not just in the Hondo. But this type of listening is hard, it's challenging like I mentioned earlier. But if we give ourselves to it, if we embrace every moment and make ourselves present, eventually something else will rise within us. In Jodo Shinshu, we call that shinjin, that entrusting. That arises when we stop resisting and allow the Dharma to work on us. And that is why we say the Nembutsu. When we say the Nembutsu, it's not a magic phrase that's going to give us all these rewards. It's an expression of gratitude for this compassion that's always there, even if we don't recognize it. The quote I shared earlier, solely saying the Tathagata's name constantly, one should respond with gratitude to the universal vow of great compassion. That is what we do every time we say the Nembutsu, even if we're not thinking about it. So how can we listen better? What are some tools? Well, you definitely don't want to do what's in this cartoon, where she says, "Thank you so much for letting me go on and on. You're such a great listener." And the other person's bread, milk, cereal, broccoli, pick up the kids, go to lunch. So not really listening, but they're present. So what do we want to do? How do we listen in Jodo Shinshin? Well, first, we have to listen to it as if it's the very first time we're hearing it. Even if we've heard a Dharma talk over and over again, and we already know the words before the minister's done talking, or anyone. Even if you've heard it before, you are different in this moment. The moment itself is different. The person talking and sharing is different. And the world has changed whether or not you can recognize it. Conditions have changed, and the meaning may be more different and more meaningful if you allow yourself to embrace it as if it's the very first time. We can listen as if it's just for you. Dharma talk isn't for your kids, your spouse, your neighbor. I know a lot of people always go, my friend should really listen to this talk. It's a really great talk. It's not for someone else. It's for you. It's individualized, even if it's for a group and given in a group setting. After all, the Dharma is like a mirror. It doesn't show others when you look into it. It just shows us. And third, we need to listen as if it's the last time that we're going to hear it. Every moment is unique, and every moment is special because we are here and able to experience it. There's no guarantee of the future. There's no guarantee you'll hear it again later. This is the only opportunity that you have. When we listen this way, the Dharma becomes a transformation, not just information. We begin to listen to how compassion is realized. We listen to how gratitude arises within us. And we can even listen to how Shinjin takes root. Listening doesn't instantly make us wise, calm, or enlightened. But it allows us to stop blindly running around like the animal in our story at the first half. It means we can pause and let compassion find us, even though it was always there. So when I return to the question I started with today, how do you listen to the Dharma? Perhaps the answer can be this simple: by showing up, by being present, and by listening, not just with our ears, but with our whole being. Please join me in Gassho while I share the words of Shinran Shonin. Solely saying the Tathagata's name constantly, one should respond with gratitude to the universal vow of great compassion. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandabus.
Thank you, Sensei. We will now please rise for the Gatha Ondokusan 2 on page 128. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Okay, please be seated. We will now have our closing meditation. The reading that I'm going to read is something that Mr. Ben Honda would always recite whenever he was up here. He was a wonderful speaker. I'm not going to do this reading justice because he would always say it with such conviction and such passion. Ben Honda was Ralph's father and Brevin's grandfather, but he would always have so much meaning behind it, and I'd like to kind of read it today for today's closing meditation. May the wisdom of the all-compassionate one so shine within our hearts and minds that the mist of error and foolish vanity of self be dispelled. So shall we understand the changing nature of existence and reach spiritual peace. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. All right, that concludes our service today. We do have a general meeting later on today. It will start at 12. Is that right? Or will it be earlier? Earlier? Whenever everybody gets down there. Well, do you know if there will be hospitality today? I don't know. Okay, there is some hospitality downstairs, so you could get some snacks and stuff before the general meeting. Everybody's invited to come. We will need quorum, which are all just, we need to have temple members there as well. So if you're an official temple member, you'll count toward the quorum. If you're not, you can see what our temple's going to be doing for the next year, so you're welcome to join us there. It's also a potluck as well, so you could have lunch over there as well. So if you didn't happen to bring any food, it's fine. We'll manage, right? Okay, so yeah, thank you for joining us today, and great to see everybody, and you're welcome to offer incense. I also like to thank Reverend Sterling Davenport for giving both the Dharma school message and our adult message. Reverend Sharon Sasaki was the co-officiant. Robert, he does a great job doing the music. Coming up here in the morning time before service, it's always wonderful hearing his guitar playing, and throughout the service, it's wonderful hearing his guitar playing. And our tech team, today it's Ricky. Reverend set up everything for us, and hope I didn't miss anybody. Our MAs, they make sure that all the flowers are placed right and all the incense is burning correctly. Yeah, thank you very much. So, but thank you again for joining us for today's service, and have a good rest of the afternoon. Please do Oshoko if you'd like.
When you mentioned your wife, I was like, oh yeah, that's same thing.
make the microphones a little bit higher for you.
Yeah, I can't get close enough to it, so they couldn't hear me very well online. So I have to get a support. Reverend Smitty made a joke last time she goes, well, obviously Sterling gave the last talk because his mic's all the way at the top.